Hi guys, Ali Taylor here. Today we're going to do a ball test. We're going to do a 30-year ball test. We're going to test the Titleist Balata against the Titleist ProV1X. Right then guys, so 30 years at least between these two golf balls. Now why the Balata though? So for me, this is the ball that as a junior was the golf ball if you were a good player that you played. So when I got my handicap down, certainly into single figures, which was 30 years ago, believe it or not, a little bit more, this was the golf ball I played. And what I find interesting is there's so much more tech in the modern golf ball. And there's been a lot of reports lately about how we need to slow the golf ball down, particularly at elite level, how players are just destroying golf courses. And for me, you know, a huge bit of that, guys are saying, is the golf ball. So I'm really interested to see that with my golf swing, how much difference does that 30-year-old golf ball make compared to the latest cutting edge technology? Right then guys, so like I said, I'm going to go half shots with my 60-degree wedge. I'm then going to go full shots with pitching wedge, full shots with 7-iron and 4-iron, working up onto driver. I'm going to hit 5 shots with each, but I'm just going to have a look in between golf ball as to how the club and the ball performed, and then at the end we'll talk about what the new ball is giving me. And like I said at the start, is it really ruining golf? So certainly when you look at the golf balls next to each other, Pro V looks bigger. I don't know whether that's just it's more brilliant white, but certainly the Balata, being the age it is a little discoloured, but it'll be really interesting to see how they perform side by side. So when you look at the balls side by side, definitely Pro V1X looks a bit bigger. Now I don't know whether that's just the fact that that's that brilliant white and the Balata's just discoloured slightly, but obviously very different construction inside. One's a solid core ball multi-layer, one is liquid filled with bands wrapped around the outside. So let's go on, we're hitting the shots. We're going to start with the half swing, 60 degree, I'm expecting this to go about 55 yards. Right, so decent start with Pro V. Let's go on to Balata. Same half swing, 60 degree. So I mean, feel-wise, such a big difference there. It really feels very soft, kind of really feels like the ball squashes onto the face with Balata. But let's look at kind of how those two balls stack up side by side on my 55-yard shot with my half swing with my 60-degree wedge. So let's look at the half swing side by side. We saw 53.6 against 52.7. So my control of distance was very good ball to ball. But what we saw with the Pro V1 was just over 8,100 spin, which is probably just fractionally higher than I would normally take. I'd expect around about 7,000, but over 8,000 is really good. And as we look at obviously the Balata there, just over 7,500. So for me, I was really expecting the Balata to spin a lot more than the Pro V, and I think it was interesting there that we got more spin out of the modern ball. Right, so that'll move us nicely into pitching wedge. So again, we're going to go 5 shots each ball. We'll go Pro V first and then into Balata. Right, so it's interesting, certainly as I'm hitting those full shots, normally I'd say how soft Pro V1X feels, but having hit some pitch shots with the Balata, almost starts to feel just a little bit clicky. But before we look at the numbers comparing the two, let's go same shot again with Balata. So again, definitely feels softer, definitely feels slower off the face. So let's go pitching wedge and let's have a look at those numbers side by side, see how Balata stacks up to Pro V. So when we look at the pitching wedge numbers, we see round about that 130 carry with the Pro V1X at just under 8,000 spin. So maybe just marginally lower than I would like to see, but I can accept that that's kind of with the modern pitching wedges where we're about. But we look at that 123 carry and nearly 9,000 spin. So interestingly there, the softer ball did create more spin when there was more club head speed, but as a result of that, that carry distance back that little bit more. Right, so that was interesting with pitching wedge. Definitely in that sense then, softer gave me more spin. And because of that little bit more spin, we didn't see it going quite as much, but maybe I expected a little bit more difference in distance between those. But again, that moves us nicely now up to 7-iron. So they felt good, felt pretty typical. I didn't mention at the start, I'm actually not using my normal irons. I'm actually testing a new set at the moment. I've got the Titleist T100S irons, so slightly different setup to mine. So we might not see my exact normal numbers with Pro V1X, but that moves me into Balata. Again, 5 shots with 7-iron. So when we see the 7-iron numbers, we see 167 against 159. So not quite a club length distance in that, but we're seeing 5,500 spin with the 7-iron. So again, that very modern 7-iron, strong loft. But even with the same 7-iron, we're seeing 6,500. So a whole 1,000 extra in spin. And that's going to give you that little bit more control hitting it into the green. Right, and so again, not a massive surprise. We're seeing less ball speed with Balata. A little bit more spin again, which I think is, I would have expected that. And then, you know, ball speed down, distance down, more spin. But definitely not seeing the changes that I expected going through this. So that's going to work us up onto 4-iron. Again, 5 shots. Right, so certainly didn't show you all the shots again there, but certainly what I'm seeing on screen, pretty much what I would expect with 4-iron. Get to look at those numbers in a sec, but let's move into Balata. So still soft, spongy, that Balata feel compared to Pro V. Let's again look at those numbers and see how the two golf balls stack up this time with 4-iron. So 4-iron numbers, we've got 192 against 178. So this is where we start seeing a bigger drop off. But the key here is we're seeing 4,300 spin, which is really, really healthy with a modern 4-iron. But we see 5,300 spin with the Balata. So in theory, we understand nowadays that this is too much spin, and that's actually what's going to start hurting us in distance. But all in all, down to 4-iron, we didn't really see a big difference, but now, as the clubs are getting longer, we're starting to see a bigger drop-off, and this is going to move us nicely into driver. Right, so for me there, big surprise how much spin I was getting with 4-iron. Now, again, probably, if I think logically, maybe I should expect that. But let's get into driver, and then let's see, this is the one I think that guys are talking the most about when I'm reading on social media and reports nowadays about how the modern golf ball with the modern driver is really, really getting the ball going too far, particularly at the top end of the game. But I'm using my current driver with the two different balls, and let's see what difference that gives me. Right, so I know even before I look at all those numbers, I know my club head speed's down a little bit since we've been in isolation. Not really worked on driver quite as much. I have hit a lot of iron shots, but they felt pretty good strikes. Before we look at numbers, again, let's just go through with Balata, see how that stacks up. Right, so I've got to say, I think that feels horrible off driver. Really just feels like it's almost made a putty and just sticking to the club face. So definitely expecting to see distance back. Be interested to see how far back, and certainly for me, be interested to see how much the ball speed changes with 30 years difference with the golf ball. So driver numbers, we've got 249 carry against 232, so quite a decent difference, and we're looking at 2-2 spin against under 2,000. So for me, really interesting that the Balata, I was expecting lots and lots of spin, and yet we saw actually very, very bottom end spin. I know Pro V is the perfect, Pro V1 X, sorry, is the perfect ball for me, so I expected some really, really good numbers. But what we do see when we look at the numbers, which is the biggest factor, is we see a ball speed of just under 150 with Balata, but we see 156 with Pro V1X. So we can see as we get into those longer clubs, that's where we see a bigger difference. Right then guys, so what have we seen in the 30-year ball test? We've obviously seen that the Pro V1X is a better performing golf ball. Now, what I found really, really interesting was when I was a kid, particularly when you weren't playing the competition and you were having a friendly game, you might even chop and change ball a little bit, whereas you tend to use something really, really hard off the tee would be the ideal thing, which would give you that out and out distance, which would obviously get ball speed up. But you tended to love how Balata felt, certainly in wedges down, because you felt there was lots and lots of spin, lots of control. So the idea with the modern golf ball, with the solid core and the multi-layer, is that you're supposed to get the best of both worlds. You're supposed to get that nice ball speed off driver, which again with low spin, which gives you the out and out distance, but you get lots and lots of spin. So when it's slower, the club head speed, you're using more of the cover of the golf ball, and you definitely see that. So I think, you know, golf balls are fantastic nowadays, but I'll be honest, I was quite surprised that I saw more spin, actually quite pleased that I saw more spin on the pitch shots, because that's really why this ball's in my bag. But I was really, really surprised that I didn't see a bigger difference off the tee from ball to ball. Now my conclusion to that is when we're looking at the driving distances being so different, in my opinion, You know, the golf ball is a contributing factor, but it's quite a small contributing factor. I think the bigger thing now is that, generally speaking, the guys and the women on tour are more athletic as a general rule. Therefore, they're able to move the club quicker. I think the equipment being bigger head is more forgiving, which again allows them to go at it a little bit harder. I think they're able to move the modern equipment quicker because of the weights that they can play with, which again makes a huge difference. But I also think when you're looking at top end golf, you're looking at golf course maintenance. You know, particularly on the PGA Tour now, fairways are the same speed, or probably quicker than the speeds of a lot of greens that club golfers put on. And as long as these lads are hitting it and the girls are hitting it through the air, we're seeing 40, 50 yards of run on the ball. So the total distances the guys and girls are hitting the ball, you know, is a massive contributing factor for me between golf ball, equipment and golf course maintenance and their athleticism. But for me, you know, I don't think the golf ball is actually killing the game, anything like we're led to believe. And I think what's great with the modern ball is you get the best of both worlds. You get great durability. I mean, I used to hate these, that when you really, really ripped a wedge shot, certainly with some of the, like my Ram Cobalt wedges, one shot with that and it was done. Whereas the modern ball is nice, performing, durability wise. This is a premium ball, and there's lots and lots of golf balls that aren't quite at this price point that would really, really suit your game. And the key, like I say, with everything, if you've got the time, get along, get fitted, find what's the correct ball for you. But for me, 30 years, much, much better golf ball, but certainly not ruining the game of golf. So guys, hope you've enjoyed today's content. If you have, like and share it, comment below. I'll get back to as many people as I can. If you have enjoyed today's content and you don't currently subscribe, please consider clicking the subscribe button, remembering to ring that notification bell, and then you find out whenever I drop a new video. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down there soon. Stay in contact.